incorrectly with respect to those computers. Is that correct?
As long as your paperwork would have indicated that the CTE programs have a preemptive priority.
Okay.
So,
And I'm just,
right.
I'm not trying to trip you out, I'm just
No,
trying
that's
to,
fine.
so like, what our employees did was in actuality, was not improper, but what was a problem is that there was no paperwork, no documentation for it, and we didn't come up with a response until you identified, hey, this is a issue, where
Yes.
is your documentation?
Correct.
Thank you. I don't, if you give me a few more minutes, I'll come up with more questions. Thank you, Mr. Bell. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you. I just have a couple of just questions. On a Perkins employee, how much time can they do on other things besides CTE, if it's not grant related?
Well, it's defined by the institution. So through the grant application process, the institution specifies which personnel will be deployed for the purposes of the grant, what the nature of those activities are, and then what percentage of time they would be, yes.
Out of the 5 employees, were they all 100% CTE Perkins?
They were.
So then none of them, they shouldn't have been allowed to do any other duties besides Perkins duties?
That's correct, and looks like that's been practiced historically. Going back, I mentioned that this issue had come up in previous desk reviews. There had been a previous $30,000 repayment to the coordinating board. During that time period, it seemed consistent that the employees that were charged to the grant were budgeted at 100% to the grant.
So maybe going forward, what we could do if we're gonna use an employee in multiple roles is then not request 100% funding for that position. Maybe whatever it's gonna be, 50-50, if we're gonna have them do other duties, and then notate that on the time and effort reports.
That would be appropriate.
Is it commencement, training, because some of these things just go with the position. So training for the position, commencement, is that something that a CTE Perkins employee would be allowed to do because it goes with the position and it's a duty of them, that it's required of them?
Yeah, I think it depends on the nature of, like, how that gets documented, what the institution's own procedures are regarding that. And I know when you really get down into the weeds like that, we have program personnel that we work with from an audit and investigation standpoint, but that provide the training to the institution, that go into a great level of detail about what is allowable, what is unallowable, how to best document those activities. And so certainly those resources continue to be available to CBC.
Thank you, sir. I think that's it.
Okay, now we'll let you sit down.
Thank you.
You're ready to talk.
Well, first of all, thank you for allowing me some time to talk to the board. I am Raymond Paredes. I'm Commissioner of Higher Education. I'm also the CEO of the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. I can tell you that monitoring and compliance are two of the most important functions that the Coordinating Board has. And as a result, I keep a pretty close watch of what we do in this area. To give you an idea of how important this work is considered by the state, we have in the 2 appropriations bills that have been filed, we have a significant increase in funding that's going to be provided us by the state to do more compliance and monitoring work. The state is very interested in making certain that the funds that are overseen by the state are used properly, effectively, in a cost-efficient manner. So when we have compliance monitoring activity, I monitored pretty closely, and I ask a lot of questions. I've been following the monitoring at Coastal Bend College since the very beginning, because there were some things that were brought to my attention that troubled me. The first one was when I was told about the expenditure for a party of $1,400, and the circumstances seemed that they would immediately attract attention. And so I was extremely troubled when I was told by Mark that we weren't provided any receipts. Because I couldn't imagine in a situation where people were behaving responsibly, that you wouldn't keep those receipts very close to your, to the top of your desk, because they would clearly be something that, once again, it would attract attention from an auditor, from a compliance monitor. The second issue that troubled me, and probably this is the one that has troubled me the most. I was a faculty member, and I was a campus administrator at UCLA for 30 years. And I can tell you that there is nothing more important to faculty than having autonomy in terms of developing the curriculum and then assigning grades. Faculty autonomy in the classroom is one of the bedrock principles of higher education in this country. In higher education, we have a practice of shared governance, where the administration, where faculty work together to make sure that they achieve the best results, the best outcomes for their students. And when I found out that there was some question about grade changes and there were insufficient answers for questions that were raised about the propriety of these changes, once again, I became very concerned. Mark didn't make this point, but there are some very serious accrediting questions that can be raised when faculty autonomy seems to be challenged, particularly in terms of assigning grades. It should never be done without a faculty member's support, agreement, and it should always be done in a highly transparent way. That didn't happen here. Thirdly, when representatives of the Coastal Leadership Group had been disbanded or had no longer existed, and I asked if what was going to be done to ensure that faculty played a central role in the instructional and the educational experience of students. And I was told, and this was once again a direct response to a question I asked, that another faculty group had been established and was fulfilling that role. Within a matter of days, I received 3 or 4 communications from people who claimed to be faculty. There's no way I could verify the accuracy of the claims. I received several communications that said that information that I was giving was absolutely false. That the faculty were not in any position of participating in the governance of the institution, and there was question about whether they had the autonomy that they should. These 3 matters compelled me to tell Mark that I wanted to come down on this visit to this campus and communicate to this board the sense of urgency I feel about the problems that we've identified in this investigation. And I want to urge this board to address these matters as quickly as possible and resolve them. I was very pleased, Mr. Chairman, in your invocation when you talked about doing things that were right by the students, taking care of the students. I urge you to maintain that same commitment and to act on that commitment as you resolve this matter before you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation.